He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that continues to celebrate the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. I hope you're having a great day, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to pay attention to Coast View as we continue to celebrate so many amazing people here in coastal Mississippi. This week has been especially good, so thank you so much. If you missed the show on 103.1, you can go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page and watch the video. You can go to the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page. You can go to any of your popular podcast platforms. I use Spotify on a regular basis to listen to the show. And then you can go to YouTube, the Mississippi SuperTalk Mississippi YouTube page. But one of the things I don't do on this show very often is talk about politics, because as I've said more recently, as it relates to this work that Matthew McConaughey is doing in Houston, that if we're trying to find, especially these days, an area where we can agree, where we can come together, basically we're not going to be able to do that on the political dimension these days. I look forward to the day where we can. But what this show is about coming together around the values that make coastal Mississippi so special. That's an area we can find common ground. This part of our culture that's at the core of who we are as coastal Mississippians, and I'm excited about that. I know there are a lot of stresses in people's lives. It might be the pandemic. It could be still some carryover from the hurricane. It could be just starting a new year and just trying to get your feet underneath you. It could be the political environment. And I mean, it's easy to get depressed about the political environment these days. But one of the things that Robbie D'Angelo, the human optimization coach, is on the show on a regular basis, one of the things that Robbie really likes to focus on is, taking it a step at a time, focusing on today and not worrying about yesterday. Setting small goals so you can achieve those small goals in your life. My friend Stacy Waldrop posted something from Ralph Waldo Emerson that really applies well to what I'm talking about. He said this new day is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the yesterdays. I just thought that's pretty wise advice. I always like to look for, really inspirational observations or quotes from friends on Facebook. And here's one from a Facebook friend, Jenny Orr, who's actually from Gulfport, who works in Atlanta these days. This is from a website called Be Happy. And here's what it said. It was written by Carrie Welsh. If you want to, you can find a million reasons to hate life and be angry at the world. Or if you want to, you can find a million reasons to love life and be happy. Choose wisely. I thought that was terrific. And lastly, sort of on a personal note, I think about our healthcare professionals and what they've had to do in the pandemic, and what Dr. Conger said about oftentimes family members can't be with a COVID patient as they die, and it's the healthcare professionals that hold their hand. And Kim Arnold, who is the mother of my daughter-in-law, they have a sort of a health challenge in their family today, and she posted this from Mike Haskins, and it's a wonderful reminder of what in life really matters. Here's what it says. A time will come when money will be worthless. Success will be worthless. Position worthless. Only love will remain the true value of all time. And in the picture that shows an elderly man holding hands with an elderly woman who is obviously ill, we should always remember our loved ones. That's one of the points I made yesterday, is that to be aware of what's going on around us, take in the moment, and to show appreciation for those around us. I hope you're doing well with the Coast View Challenge to take the next 6 months to make make the best. Make the next 6 months the best 6 months of your life. Take the best version of yourself into the post-pandemic world. Tomorrow we have Saints Friday here on Coast View. Jeff Duncan is the ultimate insider. He talked to me yesterday about the appreciation he has for the book signing he had at the Island View. Man, he had such a warm reception. He knew this already, but to see the number of Saints fans in coastal Mississippi is truly remarkable. But we're going to be talking about the upcoming what they call the Geezer Bowl with Drew Brees going up against Tom Brady, and another playoff game, and hopefully we can make it through this game and get closer and closer to the Super Bowl. So that's tomorrow with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic on Saints Friday here on Coast View. Now let's shift gears, and I want to introduce you and say good morning to Matt Stratton, who is the newly appointed Director of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, and Emergency Communications for Harrison County. Good morning, Matt. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you again. We met before during hurricane season, and Rupert was scheduled to be on the show, and because of the hurricane and all that, you kind of came in and sat in for him. And I remember my impression then. First of all, you'd had this great career in the Air Force. You had a degree in emergency management. You had a degree in meteorology, and then when you and I talked about some of the meteorological ramifications of these hurricanes that have been forming and how the sweet spots tended to be the central Gulf this year or last year, for that matter. But I thought, man, you're just kind of tailor-made for this job. And so let me say, first of all, congratulations on being confirmed the new director, and you got to be thrilled, huh?
Well, yes, thank you. I very much benefited from learning from the best these last 3 years working for Rupert Lacey, and glad to have the opportunity upon his retirement to move up to the director position. I appreciate the Board of Supervisors' confidence in me, and look forward to continuing to do great things here with our team.
Well, as you know, I've known Rupert for many, many years, and he leaves a terrific legacy there. I think one of the best legacies someone can leave, though, is to have a deputy director that you were ready to go, and you've been a sort of a great number two for him, and you've done some terrific work, sitting in for him on a number of occasions in different ways, but you do feel like you're ready for this gig, don't you?
Well, I don't know if anybody is ever ready for things that we've experienced this last year or so, but yeah, it was a great opportunity first to intern for Rupert when I was going through my emergency management program, getting my degree. And then after I retired out of the Air Force, I was able to come on board here as the deputy, and had 3 great years learning under Rupert. And yes, we're continuing moving forward. But boy, with the pandemic last year, with the very active hurricane season that we had here on the Gulf Coast in 2020, it has been a little too busy for my liking this past year, and hopefully 2021 will shape up to be better. We're looking at getting more of the vaccinations into the community, and it seems like that's really our best way out of this pandemic. Continue to work with all of our partners here in the local communities to assist them as we're all getting through this and preparing ahead of us for 2021 hurricane season.
Actually, we're going to spend a little bit of time looking back on 2020. What a challenging year it was, as you point out. But before we get too far away from you and your personal situation, you're married and you have 8 kids. That emergency management degree helps you around your family, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I guess just like everybody's homes, we have emergencies on occasion. But, all throughout my military career, my wife was actually military. I met her in the service. And so coming up, through our marriage and having the kids, they understood that there's a time where duty calls us away for the benefit of the community. And my family's, even though they're a little bigger than most, they're well situated. We got great community support from our church family and our friends here in the local community. And when I'm busy here at work, they are well situated at home.
You and I talked a little bit about this last time, but we're really fortunate to have such a strong military community here in coastal Mississippi, whether it be the Navy or the Seabees or Air Force base. And I mean, if you think about the footprint across coastal Mississippi from Stennis all the way over to even some presence at Ingalls, it's amazing the impact that military has. And one of the ways that the military impacts coastal Mississippi is that when men come here from all over the United States, all over the world, and women as well, they often choose coastal Mississippi as their home. I mean, you know this well from your own experience, but it is amazing how many people fall in love with this place, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. It was the Air Force that brought me here back 12 years ago, and getting to know the community and living here for several years, we absolutely loved it and wanted to continue after my retirement living here.
Well, that's terrific, and we're lucky that you chose here as your home. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about 2020 and look ahead to 2021. This is Matt Stratton, and we'll continue our conversation after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. We got to talk Jimmy Buffett.
One day at breakfast, he says, I started a new song. He says, about a night and a day in Key West, I played a bar and I got drunk, and coming home, I stepped out of my flip-flop, and I just kept going. I stepped on a beer can. And the next morning, I'm up, and I'm hungover, and I'm trying to make a margarita. I got some shrimp boiling. I can't find the salt. I said, Jimmy, I kind of like this. And he said, yeah, I think I'll call it Margaritaville.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on your local SuperTalk Mississippi station and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
The Lars Larson Show. On the left, they say that this president has divided America. No, the opposition, the resistance to Donald Trump is what has divided America. Because Donald Trump said he would work with both sides, and he's shown that he would. But the Democrats, because they want to take a position that everything about Donald Trump is wrong, to a large extent, they have refused to work with him on anything.
The Lars Larson Show, weeknights at 6 on SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Matt Stratton with us this morning. He's the newly appointed Director of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, and Emergency Communication for Harrison County. And in the first segment, we talked a little bit about where he came from and the fact that he chose coastal Mississippi to settle in, and has 8 kids. His wife was in the military, so they've got a good partnership. And, he had some great experience coming into this job, and was sort of tailor-made for it in a lot of ways. But, Matt, why don't we do this? Let's talk about 2020. You guys, people, first of all, you have so many different stakeholders. You have so many different elements to what you do. People, when they think of emergency management, they tend to think of hurricanes, and certainly that's a big part of what you guys do. The Homeland Security piece is gigantic. There could be any number of emergencies that occur that would require you guys to kick into full duty, one of which obviously was the pandemic. And not just dealing with the pandemic, but also understanding how to operate within the confines of the pandemic. Would that stand out as like the most significant issue you had to deal with last year?
Well, it certainly wins for the longest running, that's for sure. Going all the way back to the springtime frame when COVID-19 first getting into the public consciousness, and it has just continued to be a major issue for our communities to continue to deal with. So yes, I would say that the pandemic absolutely takes first place for the large challenges, but we had a lot of tropical events last year. Of course, probably the most significant one being Hurricane Zeta that really heavily impacted our community. The good news is that right around the new year, we got the word that presidential disaster declaration was approved, and so that opened up some resources to our communities, and hope that everybody is taking advantage of those and continuing to apply for assistance.
Yeah, we can actually chat about that for a little bit. I had Roberto Paltadano on from the SBA earlier this week, and if you missed that, you can go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page and watch it. So if you had damage to your home, if you had damage to your business, whether it be physical damage or economic damage, you really should look into this. The fact it took a little time to get the emergency declaration done, but thank God they gave it to us, because as we've discussed on this show many times, some people knew about the hurricane deductible. Some people really didn't understand how it worked. But with the amount of roof damage that occurred in coastal Mississippi, there were tremendous financial gaps between what it cost to repair their homes and what, when you consider the hurricane deductible. And so, some have had to get loans, some have had to delay repairs on their homes. But now the SBA stepping in to create a gap. You want to talk a little bit more about that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was significant damages across our communities from Hurricane Zeta, and roof damage was a major problem that a lot of people had. So obviously, for people's residences, where they're living, where their families are, their possessions, we want to make sure that those are protected as best they can be. And so, the first place that people absolutely should turn is insurance. If people are uninsured, that is a huge, huge risk that they're taking. And I know that times are tough financially for a lot of people right now, but really encourage everybody to check their insurance coverage. And that is going to be your first and quickest source for assistance after any kind of disaster. Assuming that you've contacted your insurance company, we've been working with our nonprofit partners here in the local community through a long-term recovery committee, and those nonprofit partners have been taking requests for assistance for months now, and they've built up a pretty good database of everybody's needs, and they've been working as best they can to get people linked up with sources of assistance for those needs. And then more recently now, FEMA has opened up their channels for people to request assistance. If people have not already done so, I really encourage everybody to go to disasterassistance.gov, and that will let you begin the application process. And then from that website, disasterassistance.gov, they will work the individual's case to get them linked up with the appropriate resources for their situation.
What was interesting about the conversation with Roberto from the SBA is that because of the pandemic, things are operating a little bit different than they did, say, for example, after Hurricane Katrina. After Katrina, they literally sent a representative to your home. to observe damage, to look at estimates, to really try to understand what your situation was. They're going to be doing that actually remotely now, and they don't require estimates. They're going to be using what are the state and local and federal damage assessments as a validation process, which actually should make the process go a lot smoother. So if people have gaps, they should at least venture down the SBA disaster loan process just to see if it applies to you, just to see if it's going to work for you. The interest rates are extremely low. They take them out to like 30 years, depending on your situation. And anyway, it was a terrific conversation, and Roberto did a great job of sort of laying it all out. So it's there for us to be able to use. And, if you think about businesses, a lot of them had damage. A lot of them had economic damage. At the time, Hurricane Zeta hits during the pandemic. This just could be an incredibly important tool for them to be able to use to continue to find a way to stay in business till we get on the other side of the pandemic. I can't urge people enough that if you think you might qualify or at least need to learn more about it, go to the SBA website and at least start the process so you can see if it applies to you. Anything else you want to say about that, Matt?
Yeah, so the SBA, absolutely, those low interest long-term loans are a great tool in the toolkit, and might be a valuable opportunity for people depending on their situation. If as FEMA is going through their processing, they find people that seem to be a good match with those SBA loans, they'll route them to the SBA going through that process.
So as you think about 2021, what kind of things come to mind for you?
Well, 2021, I know it's still early, but it continues to be a challenging time with the pandemic, obviously. Working with our partners here in the local community and with the state to try to get adequate testing and vaccinations. That's a challenge given the limited quantities right now, but we continue to work that as best we can. It's going to be an issue for months to come, unfortunately. And so really ask that everybody continue to take this situation seriously. Don't think just because some vaccinations are rolling out that we can go back to life as normal. We're not there yet, unfortunately. So continue to protect yourselves, protect your families and your loved ones, and continue to wear a mask, keep your distance, and clean to make sure that we're not sharing this virus that is so easily transmitted, and you can get it and not even know it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had Dr. Nicholas Conger on in the last couple of days. He's been on the show. I've lost count with how many times. He's the infectious disease internist at Memorial. And I've said often of him that he's has such a practical view toward the situation. When he joined me for the show, though, he had just experienced another COVID death just prior to coming in and to do the show with me. And I could tell it impacted him. And, he cares deeply about the healthcare professionals that are surrounding him, the nurses, the custodians that are heroes in this thing, because they're the ones who have to make sure that this virus is not on surfaces, et cetera. The pulmonologists, the hospitalists, the radiologists, the people who are involved in the lab, they've all had to work together in this effort to save lives. And one of the things he said was that they're doing a great job of keeping people off the ventilator. They have become much more advanced in understanding how to do that. But once you get on the ventilator, the outcome often is not good, unfortunately. And so what we've seen more recently in hospitals along the coast has been what we might refer to as a Christmas and New Year's bump. And he said that he's talked to people who said, "Man, we've been living safe, but during the holidays we had family members come over, and one family member had it, and now here we are, and just had to deal with that." So it's been tough watching the spread. I mean, the numbers have not been good. You can't look at any one day; you just have to look at what the trend line says, and it's troubling, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, unfortunately, the numbers have been high lately, and they don't seem to be getting the direction that we want yet. And so, everybody absolutely needs to continue to practice safety in regards to COVID. The safety of you and your loved ones is in your hands, and so do your best to protect yourselves and them, and to protect your neighbors.
So the vaccine, they're making adjustments. The supply, I think, will be increased. It's going to take some time. We got to get to over 1 million vaccines a day in America to be able to get anywhere near herd immunity by the middle of the year. But anyway, congratulations, Matt. It was a pleasure to reconnect with you, and we'll continue to stay in touch with you.
All right. Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
You bet, buddy. We'll have Glenn East coming up next. We'll see you after this break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk 103.1.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Dale Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
Well, let me know if you're en route. Back.
19 Adam to the unconscious, Main Street and West Road, 19 Adam.
A lot of people are just worried about supplies.
Our supplies are getting pretty low, and that gives us great concern.
Aside from the PPE issues, they're really worried about if they are exposed and they have to be away from work for a certain amount of time.
We're going to need some money there. And so that's one way the public can support us as well as just keep sending money into that support fund.
What I really, truly hope is that people don't forget that feeling right now of wanting to volunteer and give back to their community.
I hope this doesn't dramatically change the volunteer fire service.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk Mississippi. As part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. That was a terrific conversation with Brian Caldwell, the director of athletics for the Gulfport School District. We're really lucky to have people like Brian who has really committed themselves to education for their whole career. And it is interesting hearing how he has used his coaching career to become a better athletic director. And, he's been well rewarded for, or I should say awarded for, his amazing leadership over so many years. Just a great conversation. So now let's shift gears and move over to my friend, Dr. Nicholas Conger. He's an infectious disease internist at Memorial. And it's been a little while since we checked in. But how you doing, Nick?
We're hanging in there. Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing well. Well, let's start with this first of all. We'll get into the latest on the numbers, what your experience there at Memorial, what you're hearing around the world. Talk about the vaccine. There's a lot to talk about in a short period of time. But one of the things that you have helped me focus on is the incredible work that the healthcare profession is doing. Heroes all around you every day. And I've talked about it continuously on this show. But how's your team doing?
Team's doing well. There are some ups and downs. We've had quite a few deaths the last week or so in the intensive care unit, and that always hits their morale. I think we're doing a better job of keeping people off the ventilators. Consequently, the ones that do go on the ventilators, I think our mortality rate is much higher, and that we're doing a good job of keeping the people off the ventilators that might have been able to come off of them. In other words, so once they're on the ventilator, it seems like the death rate is pretty high, and that really hits the morale pretty hard in the ICU. They really take the brunt of it. They see the sickest of the sick patients, and they see the death day in and day out. We had a mortality today, and it's never easy, even when you know it's coming. If someone's really sick from COVID for a few weeks, it's never easy to go through that as a healthcare worker.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're having to go through that. I mean, the last time we visited, and I have repeated this story several times actually, you reminded us that it is the healthcare professional who often, if family members can't be there with someone who may be on a ventilator, who may be dying, that is often the healthcare professional that's with them and holding their hand. And you help me see this so clearly that for the vulnerable community, if they have a pre-existing condition that really puts them in a position to take that downturn that you've talked about before. Even when I had COVID, you and I were talking about my low oxygen, and we talked a lot about, even though I didn't have pre-existing conditions, I was experiencing low oxygen. And the point was that you can go from like 90 to 92 oxygen and just bottom out rapidly. And you have to be really aware of that. And so you get to know these patients, don't you, Nick?
Yeah, that's right. It's almost like, and again, I don't have like a scientific study to back this up. I'm a clinician seeing patients day in and day out. I'm not in the lab, but it's almost like there's a set amount of cells in the lungs that the virus is programmed that are going to die. And you're going to lose a certain amount of lung function. And it seems, and we support these people when we give them different treatments, but it's almost like that part of the lung is not going to work. And when it's at its maximum, there may not be anything we can do to get that patient enough oxygen to stay alive. And so it is sad. And so it does seem like some people are on a trajectory that we just cannot stop. So we do see them when they're admitted and they say, oh, I feel pretty good. And then we see them the next couple of days later and they say, oh, I feel good, but I just can't catch my breath. I just can't catch my breath. And we're talking to them, just watching their oxygen needs go up and up and up. And so sometimes those patients do end up on the ventilator and do end up passing away. And it's tough because you see them in the beginning when they come in. But then for every one patient like that, there's 7, 8, 9 that will turn the corner and get better. And so it's hard to predict which ones are going to do it. But it can be tough.
I'm so sorry you guys have had to deal with that. But the reality is, if it weren't for you, I don't know where this community would be. Healthcare professionals are really the heroes around us.
Right.
You've already
And I got to jump in and make the point that, you mentioned me, but I want to deflect it more towards the nurses that are spending all day with these patients, multiple days in a row, sometimes weeks in a row. I mean, they are there at their side nonstop. And so they really take the emotional brunt of it. Doctors, we come in and out of the room once a day. It still takes a toll on us, but the nurses they spend a lot of time with these patients.
Yeah, you said, and people, as you pointed out, and Lee Bond, the administrator from Singing River Health Systems, and I talked about this, but you think about the hospitalists and the pulmonologist and, the physical therapist and, the custodians. And the custodians have been really one of the silent heroes in all of this, keeping the place free of COVID the best they can. It takes a team to pull this off, and you guys, you're around them every single day, and it's sort of out of sight, out of mind for the average person. But for anyone who's had to be in that position or has a family member who's had to be in that position, they see it. They see it so clearly. So we had a bit of a Thanksgiving bump, and then what I think you're seeing now is a Christmas bump.
Yeah, and maybe a New Year's bump. I thought we peaked at New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, we had almost a record number of admissions. So right around New Year's was a really big peak time. And then it seemed to lull for a few days, but then it ramped back up. So maybe now we're seeing a post New Year's Eve rise. And so really, it's been a steady rise really since the beginning of November. And I'm not quite sure if we've peaked. We had what we called a COVID floor and a COVID ICU. We've expanded our COVID ICU. And now we actually have been flexed up to 3 COVID floors at once. So almost 3 times the bed capacity for COVID patients.
Wow, that's incredible. As of, I guess this is yesterday, 240,000 cases in the state of Mississippi, over 5,000 deaths. And if you look at the trend lines, you'll have a high day and a low day and a high day. You can't look at it in any given day. You just have to look at the trend lines. The trend lines are not going in a good direction. It's an alarming situation. And, I don't know, it will even in the people that I know, it will be in sort of a lull for a while. And then suddenly you'll start hearing her grandfather's got it, her father's got it. And, somebody brought it in, a friend of mine, a receptionist brought it into work, didn't tell anyone that she had symptoms. And then the next day she tested positive. And I mean, you can only imagine the ripple effect that had inside this company. And in fact, I sent him a note just before we started here to see if it had spread since the last time I talked to him, but I haven't heard back from him. But you're hearing that story over and over and over again, aren't you?
Right. Yeah. I hear, patients in the hospital today. I have not left my house for 7 months, but I had my family over for New Year's, and one of my grandchildren showed up and they didn't know they had it. I mean, that's a story. It's a person, it's an exposed family member spreading within families or coworkers spreading at work. I mean, that's the majority of it. And I know you can't catch it at the store. I know you can't catch it running errands and doing different things, but but primarily the spread is in the workplace and at home.
And as you and I have said so many times before, and for people listening, please take this to heart. And if you know anyone who needs a little dose of this, ask them to listen to this conversation on Facebook or YouTube or any of your favorite podcast platforms. But the reality is you have to protect the vulnerable. You cannot drop your guard. If you drop your guard for 1 minute, this virus will find the path of least resistance. It's incredibly contagious. And you just can't drop your guard, especially with vulnerable people. Wash your hands. I've said this on the show a lot, but Lee Bond says, if you haven't washed your hands in the past hour, you waited too long. You got to constantly, don't touch your face. Close talking is a problem. You can't do close talking. But some people just want to just go about their lives. And what he was saying is that you have to be selfless. It's not if you're not worried about you, cool. But you have to worry about the elderly person that you might come in contact with. And, Dr. Conger, we've seen a couple of people in coastal Mississippi, a couple of notable people, elderly people with pre-existing injuries, conditions that have passed away. And I think that gets people's attention, but it shouldn't take a notable person to get your attention. There are people that we don't know, that that are dying, unfortunately, too commonly. And we should be working harder to protect them. They got it from somebody. And as you pointed out, probably from work or probably from a family member. And that's just the reality of COVID, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely the reality. And I don't have much to add to that. I do think it's really primarily a respiratory spread. What the hand washing and all that's important. But man, like you say, the close talking, the getting close to other people, and we've emphasized the elderly. In fact, that might be a good segue into talk about the vaccine, because I do like the vaccine rollout so far, but I kind of wish it was all risk based. I mean, we should be doing it based on age and risk factors, in my opinion. We shouldn't be singling out certain professions. It should be age and risk factors, and those people with that age group and within those risk factors are going to catch people in all different professions. But I really wish we were rolling the vaccine out primarily by age and risk factors, because those are the people that are dying.
They are. Now, my mother and my mother-in-law both have pre-existing lung conditions, and we are protecting them, completely as best we can. And so far, so good. And both of them were able to get shots last week. And so, we look forward to getting that second shot. I think the CDC today, or the federal government today, is trying to ramp things up faster. Right. And, it's been kind of frustrating watching the state of Mississippi. People have asked me not to be too critical of the state, that it's a supply issue. But whatever the reason, we need to solve it and get the vaccine out faster. We should be doing, over 1 million people a day. We're nowhere near that in order to reach the goal of getting to mid-year and having some kind of herd immunity. Anyway, this is Dr. Nicholas Conger. We're going to continue the conversation on the other side. Thanks.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
The Lars Larson Show. On the left, they say that this president has divided America. No, the opposition, the resistance to Donald Trump is what has divided America, because Donald Trump said he would work with both sides, and he's shown that he would. But the Democrats, because they want to take a position that everything about Donald Trump is wrong, to a large extent, they have refused to work with him on anything.
The Lars Larson Show, weeknights at 6 on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me, in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go be office." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. When you listen to SuperTalk Mississippi, you become part of a statewide community, a community of knowledgeable, engaged, enlightened, well-informed, hard-working men and women just like you, all eager to see the Magnolia State grow and prosper. There may be some disagreement on how to get there, but the goal remains the same, for each Mississippian to reach their American dream. Thanks for listening and being a part of the conversation on SuperTalk Mississippi. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Dr. Nicholas Conger, longtime friend of Coast View and of Coastal Mississippi, an infectious disease internist at Memorial. And as I said so many times before, he just has such a practical view toward the pandemic. But, there's no avoiding the reality that what we talked about in the first part of the show is something we really need to just reemphasize. And that is we've got about, roughly 6 months, who knows, before the vaccine kind of kicks in. And we've got to protect the vulnerable. When we turn the calendar into 2021, the coronavirus didn't just go away. It's still here. In fact, it's here at record numbers now. And we've got to take care of people. And too many people are dying that we could have saved if we would have protected them. So just keep that in mind as we continue this conversation. So, the technology behind the vaccine is just, it's just incredible how quickly they came to it, doing RNA technology. Talk about what that is and why we have to do it in 2 injections.
Okay. So, just briefly, vaccine is putting a foreign substance in your body that causes your body to have an immune response so that you're not susceptible to that pathogen. So one of the easiest ways of doing that is taking the pathogen, say a virus, and weaken it so it doesn't make you sick, or maybe makes you just a little sick. And then your body learns how to make proteins that are antibodies to neutralize it. And so we would inject live viruses, and then we would inject killed viruses, and then we would inject parts of a virus that make your body make the immune system. Well, this technology even skips those steps. Is directly sending the messenger RNA right into the muscle cells of your shoulder where they inject it. So it right away, your body basically reads that messenger RNA and makes those proteins immediately. So it kind of takes out the middle step of reacting to what was in there, and then your body making its own messenger RNA. So it really cuts down a step. It's a very effective vaccine delivery modality. They've been working on the technology for years which is the reason why it could be done this quickly. They just had to know what target to go for. And so it kind of happened at the right time. Otherwise, it probably would have taken several years for this vaccine to come out.
So what are you seeing in reactions to the vaccine?
So I think with COVID in general, what we've seen is very rare things get a lot of attention. I think someone told me that 1.5 kids under 10 years old had died of COVID, but there were 50,000 news articles about those 5 patients. So things do tend to get magnified. The rare, unfortunate events get magnified. And I think that's what's happening with the vaccine reactions. At one point, we had given approximately 4,500 vaccine doses in our system to healthcare workers and to people over 75. And we've had about 2 or 3 ER visits from that. To our knowledge, no severe reactions. The only 2 times we had to call an ambulance with 4,500 doses were older folks who fainted or fell down while waiting in line for the vaccine. So not from the vaccine itself. Now, we are seeing some delayed reactions, like a week later. Some people having a huge inflammation, redness, swelling, and itchiness. So like a delayed type allergic reaction. Like sometimes as long as a week later, just a few cases of that, but nothing what we would call anaphylaxis, like as if you can't breathe because you got a bee sting reaction. Nothing of that magnitude. So I think on the order, that's pretty safe so far. So that's good news.
So are the reactions of the second shot more than the first shot?
Reportedly from the studies. And so we are just now coming up, I think tomorrow, we're going to start hitting our second wave of healthcare workers who are vaccinated on the first week, because that'll be their 4-week follow-up. And I have heard that historically, the second shot, you are more likely to have a more severe local reaction, more pain, more redness, more swelling. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that the first shot worked. Now, the theory behind the 2 shots is the first shot does protect you, it looks like. It's just, we don't know how long. Second shots, the reason why some vaccines have multiple doses is because the second and subsequent shots are meant to give you that lasting immunity, that memory response. And so that's why the second shot is important, even though we might have a little bit more pain, local reactions, et cetera. It's definitely worth it so that the immunity lasts for months and months, so that we can all catch up together.
Well, that's interesting, though. I remember reading this, but I had forgotten the reality of why the 2 shots. So in order for the first shot to be effective immediately, it doesn't require the second shot, but the reason you're getting the second shot is to extend the length of time the vaccine can be effective. Right. So for all older people who get the shot, they should still be careful and still, treat themselves as vulnerable people in a pandemic situation, but they're more safe even after the first shot than they were before they got it.
That's right. And so if you look at Moderna, it's easy to look at that vaccine because it was a 4-week interval. And in general, it takes your body about 2 weeks to have your maximal response. So 2 weeks after that Moderna vaccine, you should have a maximal response. And so those 2 weeks in between that first and second shot, they saw the same amount of reduction of coronavirus cases that they did after the second shot. It's just the second shot is intended to make it last longer.
Yeah.
And it is important to point out, it's a 95% reduction in catching coronavirus, but it's not 0. So there is still a small chance you can catch coronavirus. But even if you do, the patients who did, they had much milder courses.
Wow, that's really good to know. But it's so bottom line is the vaccine is generally safe, probably safer than technologies used in the past to create vaccines. And your message to people today is, don't drop your guard until we get the vaccine fully rolled out, because we don't need. We certainly we're going to protect people, but then the healthcare professionals are getting overwhelmed, and we've just got to manage this better.
That's right. Now, I always have a little bit of an escape route, a little bit of a caveat that, we can be surprised, and we just have short-term data. There could always potentially be something long-term that comes up. But from what we've seen so far, it seems to be very safe, very effective.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas Conger, infectious disease doctor for Memorial and a good friend to Coastview. We appreciate you, man. We'll have you back in a few weeks.
All right. That was great.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk 103.1.